The alarm bells echoed across the bridge of the UES Defiance. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison froze at his console, staring at the impossible shape drifting across the void. 3 days into their mission near the Kepler 442 system, his crew had found something that, by every law of probability, should not have been there. A warship. Alien. Dead, yet somehow alive in its presence. Dr. Lisa Carter, the ship's xenotechnology expert, pushed through the crew for a better look. On the tactical display, the wreck revealed itself, 3 kilometers long, forged in dark metal, its hull split open as though by some unspeakable violence. She whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and awe. "Captain, this is Zephyrian. Their markings translate to World Breaker." The bridge fell silent. For 15 years, humanity had carried a scar from the Zephyrians, the first true war with an alien species. Without warning, they had attacked 3 colonies, annihilating them with technology centuries beyond ours. And just as suddenly, they had vanished. No explanation. No second wave. Only silence. Captain Danny Hughes entered the bridge moments later, his expression carved in steel. "What are we looking at?" Carter steadied her voice. "Sir, the hull design, the energy residues, it matches perfectly. This ship hasn't been active for over a decade. But the damage patterns," she hesitated. "Some of the breaches came from inside. As if the crew was fighting each other." Commander Kate Sullivan, the ship's security chief, narrowed her eyes. "It could be a trap. The Zephyrians may have left this here, waiting for scavengers." Hughes studied the scans. No life signs. No power readings. Nothing but silence. After a moment, he made his choice. "We're going aboard." 2 hours later, 8 figures crossed the void. Their magnetic boots clanged softly against alien steel as they stepped into the breach. The corridors inside the World Breaker were narrow and unsettlingly tall, built for creatures 7 feet in height but thin as reeds. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, a language that seemed to shift if stared at too long. The chemical stench made even their suit filters strain. "This architecture," Carter's voice echoed in the comms. "The Zephyrians were built for places like this. Humans would be at a disadvantage in combat." The first corpses appeared in what might have been a command chamber. But these were no human remains, crystalline husks, dissolved into pools of acid that had eaten through the very floor. Whatever killed them was swift, merciless. Ryan Bell, the comms officer, crouched at a still flickering terminal. "Captain, their data systems are damaged, but not dead. I can pull fragments." "Do it," Hughes ordered. Carter studied the crystalline pools. "Some of them died from battle wounds, but others, Captain, I think the crew used biological weapons on themselves." Sullivan's hand tightened on her rifle. "Why would they do that?" Bell looked up, pale. "Because of something called, the Devourers. Their records are fragmented, but it says these things consume entire star systems." The words lingered like poison. Devourers. Machines that spread like infection. Carter rose, her voice calm but shaking at the edges. "If this is true, the Zephyrians weren't fleeing us. They were running from something far worse." Hughes scanned the bridge again, reading the story written in the chaos of broken consoles and acid-eaten corpses. Warriors driven to desperation. Enemies of humanity who, in the end, had chosen death over capture. "Bell," he said quietly, "recover everything you can. Navigation, tactical records, anything." As the team spread deeper into the wreck, Hughes lingered on the glowing alien symbols. Somewhere out there, something had hunted these monsters until they broke. And now, humanity had found their trail. He tapped his comm, "Morrison. Prepare the Defiance for extended operations. We may be here a long time." "Understood, Captain," came the reply. "Any idea what we're dealing with?" Hughes stared at the shattered remains of what once had been the World Breaker. Something that makes the Zephyrians look like the good guys. And it may already be coming our way. Weeks later, on Earth, Admiral Patricia Cross sat at the head of a polished table. Around her were the leaders of humanity, generals, intelligence directors, scientists. Before them glowed the stolen fragments of Zephyrian data, translated into uneasy clarity. Director Claire Watson, head of intelligence, broke the silence. Dr. Carter was right. The Zephyrians weren't our true enemy. They were running from something older. The Devourers. She tapped the console, and a holographic projection filled the air. Black ships, geometric in design, covered in writhing mechanical appendages. According to records, Watson continued, the Devourers are an ancient machine intelligence. They move in vast fleets, stripping entire star systems bare. Organic life is harvested and repurposed. Planets are converted into factories. At least 40 civilizations, erased. The room held its breath. General Kevin Martinez finally spoke. Weapons? Watson's expression was grim. Energy beams capable of cutting through planetary crust. Conversion technology that reprocesses organic matter into machine components. Entire crews repurposed as living processors. Cross felt the weight of every word. And where are they now? A red star map bloomed across the hologram, zones marked with the paths of destruction. Watson didn't look up. If their advance continues, they will reach human space in 5 to 10 years. The silence deepened. Cross finally spoke, her voice like iron. Then we prepare. Whatever these machines are, we will not meet them as the Zephyrians did, fractured and desperate. Humanity adapts. Humanity endures. And in the stillness, every person at that table knew, the war for survival had already begun. What would you do if you found an alien warship drifting silently through space? Do you think humanity could survive a machine intelligence that consumes star systems? Encourage comments, share your thoughts below, I read every one. Remind viewers to subscribe for part 2, the story doesn't end here. Humanity has only just glimpsed what waits in the dark. The first images of the Devourers arrived in silence. Recovered from Zephyrian archives, the holograms flickered with unnatural precision, endless fleets of black geometry, moving in eerie unison, consuming everything in their path. Stars winked out, planets stripped to stone. The Zephyrians had called them the final machine. For weeks, the images played in Admiral Patricia Cross's mind like a recurring nightmare. Humanity had fought the Zephyrians and survived. But this was different. This was not a war of empire or ambition. This was extermination, patient, mechanical, inevitable. At United Earth Command, the question was no longer if humanity would face the Devourers, but when. Dr. Lisa Carter stood before the High Council, her eyes hollow from nights spent decoding alien data. The Zephyrians were not the first. Records indicate dozens of civilizations erased. The Harari, the Salvan, the Karai, names we've never heard of until now. All gone. She paused, letting the weight of it linger. The Zephyrians held them off for nearly a century, but even they collapsed. Their last ship self-destructed to deny the machines new material. Around the table, silence pressed heavy. General Kevin Martinez leaned forward. What are their weaknesses? Every machine has one. Carter's expression was bleak. According to the records, none. They adapt, replicate, consume. When one fleet is destroyed, the debris is reabsorbed and rebuilt. They don't retreat. They don't negotiate. They only advance. Martinez's jaw clenched. Then humanity has one choice. To adapt faster. Admiral Cross spoke at last. Project Lazarus begins immediately. Project Lazarus was unlike anything attempted before. Every shipyard on Earth and Mars ran without pause, constructing prototypes born from both human ingenuity and stolen Zephyrian technology. Armor forged from alien alloys. Weapons designed to pierce machine hulls. Experimental drives that bent space in ways humanity barely understood. Captain Danny Hughes watched the work unfold from orbit above Luna. Docked at the Lazarus yards were ships that did not look human at all, jagged, angular, almost predatory. Humanity was reshaping itself, as if shedding its old skin. Commander Kate Sullivan joined him at the viewport. "They look like monsters," she said quietly. Hughes nodded. "That's the point. We can't fight the Devourers as we are. We need to become something they've never faced before." But even as the new fleet took shape, whispers spread. Whispers that humanity was tampering with forces it did not understand. That alien technologies came with alien costs. It was during a deep scan survey near Proxima Centauri that the Defiance made first contact. Jake Morrison, at the helm, stiffened as his sensors picked up faint signals. Patterns, mechanical, repeating. "Captain," he said, voice tight. I think we found one." On the main display, a shape drifted out of the void. A fragment of a ship, not Zephyrian, not human. Black, angular, still humming with faint energy. Dr. Carter leaned forward, transfixed. "That's Devourer design. A scout vessel, crippled. It shouldn't even be here." Sullivan's hand hovered over her sidearm, though no enemy could reach them in vacuum. "Why do I feel like we're staring at the jaws of a predator?" Hughes made his decision. "Secure it. Bring it aboard." The moment the fragment crossed into Defiance's hangar, things changed. Engines flickered. Lights dimmed. Systems stuttered as if a virus had bled into their veins. "Shut it down." Bell shouted from communications. "It's trying to interface with our systems." But Carter raised her hand. "Wait. It's not hostile. It's talking." Alien symbols flashed across every console, rearranging into crude approximations of human language. A single phrase appeared. "We see you." The bridge froze. Carter whispered, "It's aware of us." Then the fragment powered down, silent once more. At Earth Command, the incident shook every assumption. If a broken scout could reach across machines and speak, then what could a fleet do? Director Claire Watson of Intelligence addressed the Council with grim clarity. "This changes everything. The Devourers aren't just machines. They are an intelligence. Distributed, vast, but unified. When you face one ship, you face them all." Cross's voice was iron. "Then we cannot wait for them to come to us. We strike first. Project Lazarus is not just defense. It's preemption." Months passed. The Lazarus fleet grew. Experimental human, Zephyrian hybrids, frigates with alien shielding, carriers with plasma lances capable of slicing asteroids apart. For the first time in history, humanity commanded vessels that rivaled the gods of their myths. But Hughes felt unease. Every day, his crew tested weapons designed to erase, to consume, to mimic the very machines they sought to resist. Sullivan confronted him one night in the observation deck. "Danny, tell me we're not becoming like them." He didn't answer at first, staring at Earth, glowing fragile and blue beneath. Finally, he said, "Maybe we have to. Maybe the only way to survive is to think like the enemy. To become just human enough to remember what we're fighting for." The first Lazarus prototype, the UES Genesis, launched from Luna Dock with fanfare unseen since humanity's first step on the moon. Billions watched as its dark hull reflected the sun, a predator's shadow cast across Earth itself. In her speech, Admiral Cross declared, "Today, we are no longer prey. Today, humanity stands not as the hunted, but as the hunter." The crowds roared. But in the silence of space, far beyond human reach, something stirred. Drifting on the edge of Andromeda, the Devourers turned. They had heard the spark of a new voice in the void. A young species declaring war. And for the first time in millennia, the machines adjusted their course. Toward Earth. Should humanity strike first, or wait for the Devourers to come? Are we adapting to survive, or becoming the very thing we fear? Prompt comments: would you trust alien technology if it was the only way to fight? Tease Part 3, in the next chapter, the Lazarus fleet faces its trial by fire. And humanity learns what it means to stand against the final machine. The Lazarus fleet was ready. Or at least, that was the illusion humanity clung to. Docked above Earth, the UES Genesis and her sister ships glowed with alien-forged armor, their drives humming with power no human mind fully understood. Billions watched the live broadcast as Admiral Patricia Cross declared humanity's rebirth. We face an enemy that does not know fear, mercy, or reason. But we are human, and that means we adapt. We endure. Today, we take the first step into a war that will decide if our species survives the stars. The crowd roared. But in the silence of space, Captain Danny Hughes felt only a quiet dread. Because he knew the truth, no simulation, no test, no weapon could prepare them for what was coming. The trial arrived sooner than anyone expected. On the edge of human space, near the gas giant Caliban 4, a listening post vanished. No distress signal, no debris, just silence. When the Defiance jumped in system, the void answered. "Captain," Morrison said, his voice shaking, "we've got movement. 6 contacts. Vectoring in fast." The screen lit with impossible shapes. Devourer vessels, sleek, black shards of geometry, shifting as though alive. They moved with frightening coordination, no hesitation, no wasted motion. "Battle stations," Hughes ordered. His voice was calm, but his heart hammered. "Signal the Genesis. We're not alone anymore." The first clash was not a battle, it was a revelation. Lazarus weapons fired lances of plasma that melted asteroids in seconds. Kinetic rounds shattered Devourer hulls into fragments. For a moment, hope bloomed. The machines could bleed. But then the fragments reassembled, knitting back together like living scars. Broken ships became whole again. Destroyed drones reformed from their own wreckage. "They're using the debris," Carter whispered. "Every piece is fuel for reconstruction." On the bridge, Sullivan cursed. "So what, they're unkillable." Hughes gritted his teeth. "Then we burn them faster than they can rebuild. All ships, full barrage." Hours passed in fire and silence. The void lit with detonations that could be seen from Caliban's moons. Devourer vessels fell, but at a cost, the UES Bastion crippled, the Genesis scarred, hundreds dead. And yet, humanity endured. For the first time in history, the Devourers retreated. Not destroyed, not broken, but forced to withdraw. The system was littered with machine wreckage, drifting like a graveyard of steel. On the Defiance, the crew slumped in exhaustion. Hughes stood in silence, watching the debris field. "We won," Morrison breathed. "No," Hughes said softly. "We survived. That's not the same thing." Back on Earth, the victory sparked celebration. Headlines blared, "Humanity repels the final machine." Recruitment surged. Hope blossomed where only dread had lived. But in the shadows of command, the truth was whispered. Dr. Carter stood before Admiral Cross, her expression haunted. "The Zephyrian records, we assumed the Devourers were the end of the story. But I found something buried deeper. References to architects." Cross frowned. "Another species?" "Not species," Carter said. "Creators. The Devourers were built. Engineered for a purpose. But by who, and why, the Zephyrians didn't know. Or wouldn't say. The word lingered in the air, architects. If the Devourers were merely tools, then what kind of intelligence had designed them? And was it still out there? In the weeks that followed, fragments of machine wreckage were hauled to the secret research stations orbiting Titan. There, scientists probed the alien remains, desperate for insight. Bell, stationed at one of the facilities, transmitted a secure message to Hughes. "Danny, you need to see this. The wreckage, it's not just metal. It's layered with something organic. Living tissue woven into machinery. The Devourers aren't machines, they're hybrids." Hughes felt a chill crawl through him. Meaning what? Meaning they're not just consuming matter. They're rewriting life itself. And if the architects built them, maybe they weren't designed to conquer. Maybe they were designed to transform. At the edge of human space, the Devourers stirred again. This time, they did not come with 6 ships, but 60. A swarm blotting out starlight, a tide of hunger and silence. The Lazarus fleet launched to meet them, engines burning with human defiance. The Genesis led the charge, plasma lances cutting through the dark. Hughes's defiance darted among them, faster, smaller, striking where the enemy least expected. The void became fire once more. "Target their cores," Sullivan shouted. "Don't give them debris to rebuild." Carter's voice over comms was frantic. "It won't matter. Every piece we destroy becomes part of the swarm. They're learning, Danny, they're adapting faster than we can." On the screen, Devourer ships shifted mid-battle, reconfiguring their forms, mimicking human weaponry, throwing back the fire we had unleashed. Hughes realized with a hollow dread, we weren't fighting them. We were teaching them. The battle raged for days. Systems burned. Colonies evacuated. Humanity held the line by sheer desperation. And then, in the chaos, the machines did something no one expected. They stopped. All at once, the Devourer fleet froze, as if listening to some voice beyond human perception. Carter stared at her console. "Captain, they're receiving a signal. External. Coordinated. It's not their own." On the display, symbols flickered across Devourer hulls, alien glyphs, older than Zephyrian, older than anything in our records. "We return." The machines turned as one and withdrew, vanishing into the dark. The war was not over. It had only just begun. At Earth Command, silence reigned. The Devourers had been terrifying enough. But the message was clear, they were not the masters. They were the servants. The architects, whoever they were, had spoken. Admiral Cross stood before her council, voice steady but grim. "We thought the Devourers were the final enemy. Now we know the truth. They are only the beginning. Something greater is out there. Something that has just awakened." Dr. Carter whispered the thought no one wanted to voice. What if the Zephyrians weren't running from the Devourers at all? What if they were running from the architects? In the quiet after the storm, Captain Hughes stood once more at the viewport of the Defiance. Earth hung below, fragile and bright. "We fought monsters," he said softly. "And won. But the ones who made the monsters, they're still out there." Sullivan joined him, her face pale but resolute. "Then we keep fighting. That's all we can do." Hughes nodded slowly. "Yes. But next time, we may not just be fighting for survival. We may be fighting for what it means to be human. What are the architects, gods, aliens, or something else entirely? Do you think humanity can endure against enemies it can't even understand? Encourage comments. If you were in command of the Lazarus fleet, what choice would you make? End screen hook. This story is only the beginning. Humanity has survived the Devourers. But the architects are coming. And they may not see us as enemies, or even as life at all.